So let's take a minute and check in on what's happening with our foreign policy in terms of Iran. Josh Rogan from the Washington Post says the following: exclusive, no more waivers. The United States will try to force Iranian oil exports to zero. Okay, listen. This is it. This is the attempt. This is regime change. That's what this is. Now, I'm sure they considered the old, approach, the Iraq approach, the Libya approach, and all, no, let's literally just send in our military and just fucking take care of it. 100% they considered it, because look at who's surrounding Trump. Fucking John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, all these neocon, bloodthirsty, war hawk maniacs. But it looks like they've decided, oh no, we're going to go about this a slightly different way. You know what they're doing? This is a literal attempt to totally collapse and implode the Iranian economy. And what happens when you totally collapse an economy? Well, then the government collapses. What happens when the government collapses? People are in the streets. What happens when people are in the streets? An attempt at regime change, and then you've got to try to fill the vacuum. So think about this. At a time when we have the rise of Saudi Arabia, because we're giving them everything they want, all the weapons, and we're still backing them incredibly closely. You have ISIS and jihadist groups in Syria. One of the relatively stable governments in the region, who, by the way, are fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda. The U.S. government is actively trying to collapse that government. Now, that, by the way, doesn't mean the Iranian government is good. They're a Shia theocracy, and they're brutal, and they crack down on rights very strictly. So I have no love for the Iranian government, but make no mistake about it. It is relatively stable for the region, and they're trying to make it implode so that they can get a U.S. puppet in there so that we can serve our corporate interests. That's what this is about. And the guiding philosophy is fundamentally the John Bolton philosophy, the Mike Pompeo philosophy. They've just evolved slightly. Like, okay, we would normally send in fucking, fighter jets and maybe even ground invade, but no, in this case, we're going to evolve a little bit and do it through collapsing the economy, through the most rigid, strict sanctions imaginable. Now, stop and think about something, guys. According to the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, Iran was following to the letter the Iran deal, the nuclear weapons deal. They were following it, verified over a dozen times. We were gradually lifting the sanctions. Their economy was getting better. And then the Trump administration comes in, goes in the exact opposite direction, now is trying to implode the economy, and that will create massive destabilization in the Middle East, on top of the fact that what they're doing is just immoral. If Iran was going to agree, and they did, and they followed it, and they weren't developing a nuclear weapon, and everything was safe, and we were working in the right direction, and then you come in and blow it up, in this particular instance, tell me who the baddies are.